Hello again. I'm here to give you another sea story. Today is going to be kind of a special one in that I'm going to reveal to you for the first time the mysteries of the special royal domain ruled by King Neptune and his minions, including Davy Jones. Now, in the past, these mysteries were only revealed to those who actually were initiated into these mysteries by crossing the equator or crossing the line. I feel safe in revealing these because I live now at least 1,000 miles from any ocean. I was a member of the crew of the USS Knox DE-1052 for about a year after coming back from the first Western Pacific cruise. We went to our home port in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and in September of 1971, we left for our second Western Pacific deployment, or Westpac deployment. We arrived in the Philippines on the 29th of September, and our orders were to take a month-long excursion into the Indian Ocean. Very unusual. I'll get into that later, why that happened. So we left Subic Bay in the Philippines and on our way to Singapore and further on to the Indian Ocean. On the way, we decided that we would cross the line or cross the equator. Now, Singapore is a small country that is an island country, and it's located about 1 degree of latitude north of the equator, which is about 60 nautical miles. That's about 75 statute miles. So what we did was we sailed towards Singapore and dipped south underneath, went past the equator, and then came back up again to the next day to Singapore. And so this story is about crossing the equator. Now, I have to go and define a few things. One is the term shellback. A shellback is an individual who has been initiated into the mysteries of the deep. In other words, they've crossed the equator and gone through the initiation. On the first cruise of the Knox, they went and crossed the line by going to Samoa and New Zealand. Then I joined the ship after that, so I hadn't experienced that particular time. Now, the other term I want to define is polywog. A polywog is a person, or actually not a person, a polywog is a creature that is lower than whale manure. This would be a creature that has not had the initiation, has not crossed the equator, and needs to go through the initiation to be enlightened. Now, about half the crew on the Knox were shellbacks, and about half the crew were polywogs, lower than whale manure. So this was the situation in 1971. We crossed the line on the 3rd of October, but before then we actually had some festivities. The day before we crossed the line, we had a contest of individuals who, each division on the ship, including the officers, had a representative in this contest, and the contest was to crown Miss Polywog. I had a camera, and I took some pictures during these events. I was able to photograph the Miss Polywog contest, and you can see from these color photographs the individuals that were competing. One of those individuals is an officer, and the rest of them are different representatives from the divisions. Now, this second picture shows the strutting of the contestants in front of the shellbacks. The shellbacks, of course, are behind the contestant, and they were judging and observing during this time, the rest of the polywogs, including myself, where I was taking the picture, we were up on the flight deck of the Knox, where this event was occurring, and just below us, behind us, was another deck down, the quarter deck in port, and there was a fire hose there. So we unstrung the fire hose, unbeknownst to the shellbacks, and hosed them down. They, of course, didn't like that very much. So everybody went to the forecastle where Davy Jones was scheduled to arrive. And these are the photographs of the forecastle with the Miss Polywog contestants, and Davy Jones reading out the rules and the warnings that he was given by King Neptune about entering his secret realm with a bunch of polywogs. And here's a photograph of the Davy Jones and his two guards overlooking the Miss Polywogs and making sure that they are properly dressed and properly contested. Now, there was a winner on the Miss Polywog contest, and I'll get into that later because it was quite funny. On that day, I was given a summons, and you can see here the summons with my name on it. Oh, by the way, my name is Rickover, and hopefully you'll be watching other videos of mine. But this is the actual summons from Davy Jones, and I'm going to read it to you. I'll get it up on the screen. This is the order. I order and command you to appear before me and my court on the morrow to be initiated into the mysteries of the special royal domain. If you fail to appear, you shall be given as food for sharks, whales, sea turtles, polywogs, saltwater frogs, and all living things of the sea, who will devour you head, body, and soul as a warning to landlubbers entering my domain without warrant. You are charged with the following offenses. Number 1, being the leader of the slimy polywogs into King Neptune's realm through faulty navigation. And number 2, for usurping the royal navigator's authority to declare when the ship has entered the realm of Neptunus Rex. Therefore, appear and obey or suffer the penalty. Signed, Davy Jones, Secretary of His Majesty. The next document I'm going to show you is the plan of the day. This is Neptune's plan of the day for the USS Knox DE-1052, dated 3 October 1971. And I'll put it up on the screen. Interesting things about this is the first thing is called the initiation uniform. For the shellbacks, they can wear anything they desire. For the polywogs, old dungarees or khaki trousers worn backwards, t-shirts, shower shoes or tennis shoes, footwear recommended. And then they go through a list of individuals who are responsible for various duties, such as the mess decks, the cooks, the saluting batteries, duty garbage stomper, special duties. My name is listed. One that needs to be a little bit explained, called a duty butt kit. MR3 Coulter was assigned to that. A butt kit is a Navy cigarette holder or ash container, like a little cylinder that you find on the wall inside of the ship. It's called a butt kit. Wish I had one. Now the other side of the document. This is the other side of the document, as you can see, and I blow this up for you to read. And it's the following underway holiday routine, except as modified below. At 0400 reveille for all shellbacks and polywog mess cooks, which, if you look at the front page, they were all the officers. All the officers were the mess cooks. Polywog officers, I should say, which was me, included. So breakfast for the shellbacks, then reveille for the polywogs, breakfast for the polywogs. Now, as it happened, well, I'll get into that later. And following this, the polywogs with special muster assignments were gone to their area. At 06:30, the shellbacks were mustered on the hangar deck at 7 o'clock. They had to relieve the watch. 7:45, mustering of the side boys, saluting battery on the forecastle, standing to receive King Neptune and the royal party. And then the proper salute for King Neptune, and then the initiation commenced. Now the notes here, I'll read them over for you. A reminder to all polywogs that the ship will be entering my domain today. All polywogs are reminded that participation in, quote, crossing the line, end quote, ceremonies is strictly voluntary. However, I have instructed Captain Hayes to do so note non-participation in any individual's service record. There is to be no shaving of heads or other such treatment, except, of course, emergency barber and other such repairs as required. The ceremony will be conducted in good taste and in the spirit of good, clean fun. And the senior shellback for Neptunus Rex signed it there. And then continuing on, paydays for the officers, CPOs, and the crew, signed by the Lieutenant Commander, Executive Officer, Senior Polywog. Now what happened was, at 0400 hours, we were woken up, and the officers cooked breakfast for the shellbacks. It was a very normal breakfast, good food. And then when the polywogs had their breakfast, including the officers, we had things like green dyed cold spaghetti noodles. I remember those. Hard-boiled eggs, things like this that were unattractive. And what happened, of course, was a big food fight, which had to be cleaned up by everybody. Then we were assembled in the forecastle. The forecastle is the pointy end of the ship. We had to be on our knees, and you can see here on this picture the polywogs assembled on the forecastle ready to be initiated. And if you look closely, you'll see that they are wearing their trousers backwards. The officers in khaki and the men in blue. The next picture is the saluting battery, I believe. That's called the saluting battery. And they were on the forecastle honoring the arrival of King Neptune and his entourage. Here we have a picture of the judge, the infamous judge that will come in later. Then a photograph of King Neptune and his queen. These photographs, black and white photographs, were taken by a shellback. I don't know who did it, but a shellback, of course, and they were published in the cruise book. And I'd taken them out of the cruise book. This is the Western Pacific cruise book of the USS Knox, the E-1052 for 1971 and 72. Now, when we were assembled on the forecastle, 2 or 3 shellbacks would come through. They all had switches, by the way. They had made these, they manufactured a switches or I'll call them a switch. They used them to beat you with and strike terror into you. You can see some of those on the earlier pictures. But they would come and read off 2 or 3 names, and these men were taken away. And then they would come back sometime later, take 2 or 3 more, and they would go back to and go away. And in the meantime, we're sitting in the sun, awaiting our turn. Sooner or later, they came for the executive officer, and they announced his name singly by himself, and they took him away. Later on, a couple more of our polywogs had to go away and not come back. But in about the mid-morning, an unusual thing happened. The executive officer, who was the senior polywog, he came back. And he had to kneel on the forecastle like the rest of us. And we asked him, "What happened? Why are you back? Nobody else has come back. What happened?" And what he did was he reached into his T-shirt and pulled out a big fistful of hair clippings. What they had done with him is they had taken his clothes off, or I don't know, maybe they didn't, but they stuffed his clothes with hair clippings from the barber shop that they had been saving for the last week or so. And they put him back on the forecastle to sit in the sun. But he was joking about it. It was all in good fun. At any rate, that's what happened to him. Now, I'm going to explain the initiation, which is the secret part of everything. They call your name, and you had to crawl. You couldn't walk. You had to crawl down the passageway on the outside of the ship to the torture area. And the first person that you would run across is the judge. I showed you a picture of that earlier. And the judge would read out your summons, declare you guilty, and sentence you to the initiation. The next person that you crawled up to was the royal barber. The royal barber took a chunk out of my early growing beard here with a clipper. And then I came to the royal family itself. King Neptune and the Queen didn't pay much attention to me at all. But the royal baby next to the Queen was an interesting character. I didn't know about this. He had a diaper on, or what looked like a diaper, bare-chested, and his abdomen was covered in grease. And as I came over to him, he took a cherry out of a jar of maraschino cherries and put it into his umbilicus, or belly button. And he said, "You must take the cherry out of my belly button with your lips." And I had no other recourse. I had to do that. So I leaned over, trying to get the cherry without touching all the grease. And of course, he grabbed my head and smeared me all over the abdomen with it. Here's a photograph of the royal baby doing his thing with another young inductee. Next, we came to the machines of torture. These are some of the machines I'll show you on the photographs. One was called the coffin. They'd stick you in there, and there was a lot of garbage and probably a little bit of vomit also in there. And it was nice and hot, suffocating, and then they'd let you out. Another that I don't have a picture of is a tube of black rubber that you would just fit in. If you crawled into it, you could crawl into it, but you couldn't stand up in it. And inside this 20-foot long tube or tunnel was vomit and garbage, and you had to go through that. You could hardly breathe. Next, there were the pillory where you stick your head in. This is a view of that. You stick your head in there, and they would rub garbage on your face. Oh, great fun. All the while, the shellbacks were laughing and taking pictures. Another picture here showing one of the crewmen going through being abused by the shellbacks, because the polywogs actually were just creatures lower than whale manure. Now, towards the end of all of this, there was a big tub of water, salt water, 3 or 4 feet deep, and I don't have a picture of the actual tub that we had during our initiation, but I took a picture out of the yearbook. This is the yearbook from the first cruise of the Knox. Remember, I mentioned that they had crossed the line earlier. I took a couple pictures out of there to show you what happened next. They set you on the edge of this tub, and they asked you, and of course, they've been asking you this all along, you know, what your response was. But they would ask you a question, what are you? And you would say, I am a polywog lower than whale manure. Of course, we use the usual shortened version of the name of the word manure. They put you on the edge of this tub, and they dunked you in, and they pulled you out, and they asked, what are you? And if you said, I'm a polywog lower than whale manure, they'd dunk you in again. And they would keep doing that until you got the idea to answer correctly. When they say, what are you? And you say, I'm a shellback, they let you out. And from that point on, you're done. Well, not quite. Here's a photograph of the end, actually, from the year before, showing the young men trying to get all of the garbage and other things out of their hair and their clothes. A hose was set up along the side of the ship, pumping seawater spray onto them, and that's how we cleaned ourselves off. In fact, almost everybody took their t-shirts, their pants, shoes, whatever they had on, and they threw them overboard. We had a 20-mile, 30-mile long clothing debris in the water on this, because you couldn't save them. They stunk. Now, what happened to Miss Polywog, the actual winner of the Miss World Polywog contest? Well, we asked him later what happened, and he said that he was sitting in a chair. He had a very good view of everything. Everybody would come by, and yes, oh yes, he had his foot covered in grease, and you had to kiss Miss Polywog's foot as you went by. So anyway, he's having a good time having all of his buddies kiss his foot, thinking that he's getting out of a lot of this stuff. But towards the end of the initiation, people are getting a little bit bored, and they started throwing things at him, and that's what his first clue was, that he's not getting out of this. So when everybody else had gone through the initiation, they announced to the shellbacks, came over to King Neptune and said, everybody has been initiated, Your Majesty, except for one. And that's when he knew he was in for it. So he was given a special initiation towards the end. The next day we arrived in Singapore for a 4-day port visit, and then on to the Indian Ocean, which I'll get into at a later video. So be sure to like this if you so like. Please sure to subscribe. I'd like that very much. And I hope you enjoyed this revelation. And please keep it to yourself. Do not reveal the mysteries of the deep to anyone who's not initiated. But I hope you enjoyed it a lot. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.